Chapter 7. "What is it, Katy?" he said, running to her, holding her in his arms. She put her head down. "I'm here because I didn't know who I could turn to. I was desperate, Hunter. If I called Robert, he would have lectured me and forbade me to see Devin again. For Hunter that wouldn't be a bad thing, but he knew Robert, and that meant him too. How did you find me?" "I know Christine's girlfriend. She had double-dated with me and Devin. Devin introduced her to one of the shifters in town." Katy took a breath. "Devin wanted to go to this party on the outskirts of town at this motel, and I didn't want to go. He made me go anyway." Hunter interrupted Katy. "Wait. Get back in the car." He opened the passenger side door, and Katy entered. Then he closed it and walked around and opened the door and sat under the wheel. He started the car up and pulled away from the curb. "Where is Devin?" "I left him at that motel and took the car. He was drunk and acting strangely. Every woman who approached him, he would disappear into another room with them, or the bathroom, and I wouldn't see him for hours. He would come out sweating and then tell me to wait for him. Then this tiger shifter thought I was alone and tried to rip my clothes off. I managed to scratch him across the face and shout that I belonged to a Samsa. That was the only way he would leave me alone. I rushed out of the motel and found the car. Devin, in his drunken stupor, had left the keys in the ignition, so I came here to wait on you. Was I wrong, Hunter?" She looked at Hunter with her beautiful big eyes covered, with a lush pair of dark lashes circling each eye. "Where are you going?" "To find Devin." Hunter made a right off Main Street to Highway 80, going east to Reno. "Do you know where that motel is located?" "Yeah. Pretty much. Devin always parties with a bad boy shifter named Eric. Eric's father owns the motel. Devin hung around with Eric getting drunk and dating girls. Together one night, they took some underage girls out drinking. Eric had something else in mind. The local police called my father, and he grounded Devin until he turned 18, Hunter said, looking at Katy as the sun hit her silky hair and mixed with the green in her eyes. "She's spectacular," he thought. "Devin isn't for you," Hunter said, not meaning to voice his feelings so clearly. He turned to Katy, looking at her, but not for a reply. She was surprised at Hunter, but she hadn't too long ago came to that conclusion before Hunter came back home, but now it was too late. Look at that orange and crimson sky when the sun rises from behind the mountains. It's great to be young and alive. "I'm grateful to see it," Hunter said. He touched her hand. She didn't pull away. "What are you doing to yourself, drinking with Devin night and day? You should be on the mountain slopes, enjoying the last bit of the snow, or swimming or boating. What's all this about?" Katy didn't answer him. She just looked out the window of Devin's black Porsche Carrera. "I want to do all those things with you," Hunter said, his voice soft. He gazed over at her, and she met his gaze, and she couldn't stop looking into his compelling blue eyes. Katy pulled her hand from under Hunter's. "When we get there, promise me you won't do anything to hurt Devin. I love him." Hunter glanced over to Katy. Can't she see that Devin isn't good for her? His mind told him. "I can't promise anything," he thought. Hunter pulled off the highway and headed down to the entrance of the motel. It was set in a secluded area off the highway, surrounded by trees and woods. The sound of loud music vibrated inside the car coming from the outside. As he slowed and drove around to the back of the building, cars were double parked one behind another. Young men and women, along with shifters of all kinds, were walking together and stalking into the woods. Sexual animal moans and grunts could be heard for miles. "Is this what you want? Do you want to have to get Devin out of places like this on a Saturday night? Do you want me? I promise you that I would never do this to you." "It's too late, Hunter." "It's never too late. Just say the word, and we can be married tonight, and there will be nothing Devin can do about it. He'll get over it. He's probably getting over you this moment. Katy's face was blank. What do you think he's doing now? Hunter reached over to Katy, pulling her into him. He leaned in to kiss her, and she pulled back. I know you want to be with me, he said. But what's stopping you? There's nothing stopping him from breaking your heart, like you're breaking mine. I don't want to break your heart, Hunter. You don't understand. Then make me understand. He sat looking at Katy, and she put her head down. When he couldn't take it anymore, he opened the car door. He turned to Katy, stay in here and lock the door. Don't let anyone in, not even Devin, unless he's with me. Hunter stepped out into the cool spring air. He closed the door behind him with a bang. Following the crowd of shifters and humans, he opened the door and entered one of the rooms. Hunter stood in the doorway, looking around for Devin. There were 2 queen beds, and both were occupied. A bear shifter had a blonde and a bear hug, and he was Chapter 8. Hunter, wearing a closed smile, sauntered past Eric, never surrendering his threatening gaze. He had learned from the Alaskan werewolves that a smile proved to be more dangerous than a menacing growl. With a smile, Hunter had been beaten and tortured and left to die of hunger, even after he had hunted and brought back meat for the entire pack. It was when Hunter smiled now that he was the most dangerous. The enemy would never know what he was thinking, and clearly Eric was the enemy. Turning facing Eric, he backed out of the room, never taking his eyes off him. After walking and seeing the Porsche, he spotted Katy shivering from the cold. She hit a button and the door unlocked. Hunter jumped inside and started the engine. Why didn't you turn on the heater? I wasn't thinking. I was worried about you and Devin. She looked to him. I was worried that you two had argued over me. I don't want to be the divide between brothers. Your father would never accept me into the family. We never argued because of you, which was a lie. He hated lying, especially to Katy. Devin will be right out. He had to tell some of his gamer friends goodbye. Katy appeared to relax because of that well-placed lie. She turned to face Hunter and saw Devin staggering out of the room. He looked around and headed in the direction of his car. Hunter opened the door and jumped out and shouted at Devin. Over here. Hunter turned to Katy. Get out and get into the driver's seat. He's in no condition to be behind the wheel. What are you going to do? Katy asked, standing at the open door in the driver's side. I'm going to the hospital to keep half of my promise to a girl. As Katy glanced at him and then got into the car, Hunter closed the door. Once in the driver's seat, Katy hit a button and the window lowered. She looked up into Hunter's eyes. I should have waited for you. It's still not too late. Oh, but it is. I heard what you said to Katy. Did you think that I was too drunk to know what you're up to? Devin said, walking behind Hunter. Devin's hearing was sharp. Hunter's hearing was sharper. He heard Devin's feet crush a piece of paper as he neared him. I really didn't give a damn if you heard me or not, Hunter said, walking away and heading in the direction of the interstate. As Hunter approached the woods, he started running fast. He had to clear his mind. He closed his eyes and let his senses take over. He ran, and when he looked up, he was standing at the front of the hospital once more. Hunter wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his arm and straightened his dark hair by passing his hand over it. Then he walked in. Taking the elevator to the second floor and children's wing, Hunter stepped off the elevator in time to see Robert leaving Haley's room. That child has been asking for you. She's hysterical. You should never promise anything unless you know that you can fulfill the promise. I have to go. Mina and my babies are waiting for me. Robert didn't wait for an explanation. Hunter strode past him and quietly went into the room. Haley's eyes opened wide. Where have you been? You said that you would be here when I woke. I heard you say it, so don't deny it. Her voice was small, her tone low. I'm not denying it. He sat in the comfortable leather chair near her bed. I had something I had to do. It must have been hard because you look like shit. He raised an eyebrow at her. I mean, you look like shit in a seductive, sexy way. She shot him a thin, feeble smile. Your hair is loose, messy, and falling over your eyes. Don't start that again, Haley. I'm too tired to argue with you. She placed her hand in his, and he closed his hand around hers, and for some reason he felt safe, and there were no threats, so Hunter fell asleep as Haley watched at him with a wide smile. Hunter. Hunter, the voice sounded as if it was at a distance, but it was near. He recognized the voice, and didn't wake in a hostile stance. His eyes opened, and he sat up to see Christine standing over him. You didn't get any sleep, I see. Is it still on tonight? Is what still on tonight? Haley opened her eyes, peeping out of half-closed lids. Hunter and I have a date tonight, Christine said, as Hunter tried to gesture to Christine not to mention it. She turned to Hunter. You didn't say that we had to keep it a secret. Doesn't the hospital have some sort of policy about dating? Haley said, clearly upset, her voice weak and her tone disapproving. Yes, smarty pants, but it doesn't cover this, Hunter said, rising from the chair. Let's go outside and talk. He left the room, with Haley watching Christine following after him. Hunter closed the door. Haley could see him smiling at Christine through the small window in the door. Hunter never smiles with me, she thought. All she could remember on his handsome face was an irritable, restless, impatient frown. She had to regain her strength and ambled to the door and opened it. You can talk in front of me. I know all his secrets. Hunter looked at her. That same disapproving look was there again. Go back to bed. He turned to Christine, not all my secrets. And Hunter looked at Haley. A suggestion of irritation lingered in his eyes. Christine, feeling that she was interfering where she wasn't wanted, said, Hunter, I have to make my rounds, but I can talk to you in 15 minutes. Christine trotted off down the hall. Why are you looking at her like that? You never look at me that way. Get in the bed, Haley. Hunter looked at Haley. She waited until he helped her and pulled the sheet up to cover herself. Because she's a woman and you're not. One day I'll have an ass and tits like that, Haley said to a surprised Hunter. And I'll rock your world. But you don't, and I doubt that you ever will, so until then, I will look at Christine any way I want, and you can go back to being a child. But I'm not a child, I'm 19. That still makes you a child in my book. So what are you, 20 or 21? Haley said to Hunter with a smirk and a tilt of her head, not expecting an answer. I'm tired of this conversation, Hunter said. I'll see you tonight, and when you are well enough to be released, which will be in a few days, you will have to stay at Katy's house. I will not. I'm not going to stay at any woman's house that can't wait to fuck you. Where did you learn to talk like that? At this school my father sent me to after my mother died, then I got expelled. I can see why. Hunter, standing near the bed, leaned forward and kissed Haley on the forehead. Why can't I stay at the ranch? Because it's too crowded. I'm not going to debate this any longer. It's that or what? Are you going to send me home? I'd rather be home than have to watch you and Katy together. I heard enough about her in the car traveling up here. How she's so beautiful. Never once did you tell me how pretty I am. Well, you are pretty. Now we're making progress. We're not making any progress. We're not doing anything, and especially not together. Did I say we were going to do something together? That's just your sex-starved mind, Haley said, trying to annoy Hunter. She liked to see his blue eyes change and glower at her. It made him look so human and sexy. When Haley could get him to show his emotions, she knew that deep inside, he felt something for her. I can't believe we are having this talk. It's time for me to leave. Christine is waiting for me. I hope you don't want to know what we will be doing tonight, Hunter said, shooting Haley a wide, provoking smile, one eyebrow raised. You wouldn't, Haley said, crossing her arms, breathing hard and glaring at him. I will. And Hunter strutted out, wearing his mysterious smile, and stood waiting in the hallway for Christine in front of Haley's door. He put his fingers across his mouth and shook his head. What a handful she is, he thought of Haley. Hunter became restless and decided to visit the other wings of the hospital. Why not? I'm not used to waiting. A walk would settle me down, his mind said to him. It's a place his grandfather and father built, and eventually he would be in charge of it. He found himself on the floor of the trauma ward. When he glanced up, he saw Katy running behind 6 doctors and 2 nurses. They were scrambling around as 2 others wheeled a stretcher with IV poles at the foot and head. It was a large state-of-the-art gurney. At each 4 corners it held additional IV poles and a place for an oxygen bottle. He heard one doctor say, "Stay with me, Mr. Samsa." The next sound was the faint cry of Katy's voice as she came to a stop at the operating room, because she couldn't go in. Is he going to die? Hunter took off in a mad sprint and reached Katy's side. She turned, looking stressed at Hunter, her breathing loud as she tried to catch her breath. It's Devin. When you left, he went back inside and left me in the car for a few minutes. She grabbed Hunter's shirt and placed her head on his chest, holding on to him, trying to catch her breath, her breathing too rapid. Looking up at Hunter when he wrapped his arms around her, she continued telling Hunter what exactly had happened. Eric came from one of the rooms and around the corner where the car was parked, then he opened the door and pulled me from the car. I left the door open thinking Devin would be right out. Katy's voice was hoarse and shrill. Devin came to the parking lot just in time to see Eric dragging me into the woods. I screamed and screamed. I think Devin heard me. Did he? No. I was fighting him. I bit and scratched him. But it didn't do any good. He just laughed. Eric had shifted when he brought me deep into the woods. When Devin found us, he took too long to shift because he was drunk. When Devin caught Eric, he had me on the ground ready to tear my clothes off. That was when Devin pulled him off of me and threw Eric against a tree. When Eric saw that Devin was making sure I was okay, he attacked Devin when his back was turned. I think he's hurt badly. He may have severed his jugular. Katy was shaking and she put one trembling fist to her mouth. He lost a lot of blood, Katy said, gasping for breath close to Hunter, her head buried in his shoulder, as if she could bury herself in him for protection. A doctor walked calmly through the doors. I'm Dr. Carrington. Mr. Samsa's surgeon. We have a team working on him. He will need blood. Lots of it. He lost about 5 pints. For a human, that would be life-threatening. You are his twin. You will need to see the nurse now, and she can prep you. Yes, of course, Hunter said, bewildered. Dr. Carrington walked back through the doors to the emergency room before Hunter could ask him any questions, and Katy sank into a chair, unable to speak. She appeared to be in shock. The nurse came and led Hunter into a small room and prepped him for a blood transfusion. Before he left, he spoke to Katy. Call my father and Robert and tell them what happened, and that I'm giving Devin blood. Tell my father not to inform my mother. Hunter hoped that Katy would get it together and do as he had asked. He hated to leave her alone because she looked distraught and weak. Her face appeared pale. The once rosy cheeks and plump red lips were dry and cracked. Her green eyes were red and swollen. Someone would have to pay for making her unhappy, or both would have to pay, Devin and Eric, but for now it wouldn't be Devin.